Radio 1 FM 90. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Spectrum. We are coming to you live from Radio 1 FM 90 here in the Central Building, which is the heart of our city, Kampala. We are also live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. Radio 1 is also live on the different radio listening apps, TuneIn, Afro Mobile, your TV channel. You can also find us on DSTV. Our audio channel there is 897, and on StarTimes, our audio channel is 97. Today we'll continue focusing on matters of education, and we're looking at reforms in the education sector. What should be our priority? Now, the education sector is a very important one in any country, given the fact that it shapes the human capital, which is required to develop the country through generating and sharing knowledge, inventing or carrying out innovations, but also providing solutions on top of shaping the future leaders. Now, the Ugandan education system has been an envy in the region and beyond, but some people think the world has rapidly evolved and that there is need to change certain aspects in order for the country to catch up or prepare for a brighter future. Now, one of the people who have been vocal about this matter is Dr. Lawrence Muganga, who is the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, who appeared before the Education Sector Review Commission, from where he shared a number of issues. This evening, glad to host him on Spectrum so that he can share with us some of the key pointers he shared with the Commission, but also give his advice about some of the emerging issues in the education sector, including school fees or tuition, and the dropout rates that have become critical issues lately. Good evening, Dr. Muganga, and thank you very much for joining us on Spectrum.
Good evening, Kenneth. Thank you so much for the invitation. Good evening, the listeners. Thank you for keeping yourself on Spectrum. It's not something we take for granted to speak to people who are willing to listen.
That's very true. And we do value their feedbacks, so I'll request them to share their view using the WhatsApp line, which is 0703 090 090. Tell us what you think about the topic we're discussing, but also you can share questions that Dr. Lawrence Muganga will be here to respond to them. Now, let's begin, Dr. Muganga. How would you describe our education sector from where you stand and looking at how things are shaping out?
Kenneth, you started very well. You said that our education system was an envy to so many in Africa. And that's very true up to some time. But as we all know, if you look at what is going on in the economy of today, and even if you just looked around the roads and you try to identify a car that may have come to Uganda in 1980, you may not find one. And meaning that it is really, really very old and it's off the road. Or if it is there, there are newer models that have evolved from that model since 1980. So if that is true for the cars, then everything in life keeps changing. If you look at medication we used to take for malaria in 1990, 1999, that medication has really transformed itself into something else. But the other scary part that we may really use, and it's a fact that is as simple as this, that if you look at AI, artificial intelligence, in the next 5 years, artificial intelligence will be more intelligent than a human being 5,000 times. Imagine. So just a machine, artificial intelligence, will be 5,000 more intelligent than a human being. We are talking about 5 years, but today, if we go scientific, its IQ is about 155 to 160. If you're likening that to a human being, it is at the same level with Albert Einstein. his IQ was about 160. So artificial intelligence today is like Albert Einstein. And an average Ugandan, in terms of IQ, is about 60 to 70. So if the trend technologically is going like that, and we're not updating our education to catch up to that speed, so you can only imagine where are we going to be in the next 5 or 10 years. But that is even, I think, more complicated. You're looking at an economy recently. I have one employer who managed to host some of the leaders of an education institution that had graduated students. And he brought out 2 of the individuals he had paid fees for in that institution that I may not disclose the name. So he asked them, like, I have paid fees for these 2 individuals for the last 3 years, but none of them can even use a computer. And the jobs we have here will require them to furnish us with reports instantly on everything we need. But these 2 people cannot write anything using a computer. So that is the kind of education we are talking about. You can also look at it differently. If you look at what we promote in this country, we promote coffee growing, which is great. And but if you look at the coffee market cap around the world amounts to about 500 billion, okay, worldwide. And we're not the coffee exporters like those people are looking for. For us, we have to export to someone else who adds value and now is considered a real coffee exporter. But the digital economy, it is not just 500 billion, it is 17 trillions. So how are we shaping our young people to fit in this digital economy that has money that actually can make Uganda rich, can make Ugandans rich? So that is where you start throwing your flashlight on everything that is happening in the country, and then you will say, maybe there is something we need to do. We have not talked about how education is even delivered. All right? But I'm looking at the end result of everything that has to happen when you go through an education system. So there is a lot that needs to be done. We used to be an envy to other countries, especially in East Africa. It goes without saying. We have had amazing leaders go through our education system. But if some of them who have since gone, if they became children today and they came back and you ask them to go through the same education system, I doubt if they would accept.
All right. Now let's go to the Education Review Commission Board, where you went and shared some views. What did you take there, Dr. Muganga?
I took there so many things.
Let's look at the fundamentals.
Yeah, let me tell you what I took there. That is really, really important. I am saying that if you look at what is happening in our country today, in our education, the way it is structured from primary, secondary, and then higher education, if you look at something that is being done in primary, at the end of a particular cycle, you're going to you realize that at the beginning you had closer to 1.9, almost 2 million kids enrolling into primary 1. And then after some time, 7 years, by the time you start assessing them through a national exam, these kids have remained closer to 800. So you've lost about 1.1. So when you go to senior 4, at the time they have to do UCE, you have about 300,000. So you have, again, lost about 500,000. It gets worse. It gets worse when you go to senior 5, senior 6. At the end of that tunnel, you have only 90,000 students. So you're wondering, at the end of the day, the system has rejected and dropped around 1.2 million young people. And then you're wondering, who is taking care of those people? So when I ask that question, there is some stumbling block. Number one, it is a national exam. A national exam that has to tell that this child, you start examining children from P1. Then primary 7, you give them a national exam and you say, you know what? We have educated you for the last 7 years. Now is the time to show us if you can remember everything we gave you in the last 7 years. And you're asking a child to really, really remember these things in just an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours. So, and even if you start a teacher there who has been teaching these kids cannot remember these things. But the problem is not even doing that. We know that there is no value in remembering these things. Because the age we are in today, computers remember these things. You just need to learn how to do things, not how to remember things. That's how you help your economy. So the same happens even in senior 1 to senior 4. And then you sit another national exam.
Is that what they call cramming?
You cram, you memorize, regurgitate things that eventually after you write that exam, you don't remember anything and you move on. But the system is going to measure what they call success according to the grades you have gotten. So, and the parents have been hoodwinked to think, compelled to have a mindset that success is equivalent to the grade this child is going to acquire. If you get a 4 in primary 7, that is a sure success. But reality has told us differently. Okay? It doesn't matter that grade, the 4 you get, does not in any way tell a story of how you're going to live the next 50 years. It doesn't even look alike at all.
That's true.
The same with UCE. So if all that is true, and then the parents have to pay so much to buy those grades, okay? That's the service they're buying from school owners, from be it a public school or a private school. That's the only service they're purchasing. And in return, they think they have acquired success. But when these kids go through the system, now they face the real world. The real world doesn't look like what they went through. So if that is true, what we are talking about, and you have paid the fees, these fees that are so exorbitant just because you're buying a grade. I advocated for the removal of PLE and UCE national exams and replace them with a continuous assessment model. A model that allows a student to use resources within their home, their own communities, to learn by doing, to create things, to now be able to risk, because in an exam you can't risk. If you risk, you have lost it and you're going to be baptized a failure. So, but this time, when you go for continuous assessment, it simply means, and within a competence-based education model that looks at a student's competencies and the skills they are acquiring and the mastery, so for them to move to another class. So if you go by that model, it is now going to shape a child to learn how to do things, how to solve problems, how to take risks, how to become creative, how to innovate, how to think forward, that forward thinking. So those are the things I advocated, that we need to think twice, and we really need to get rid of them and replace them with continuous assessment. And when you do that, you have to create what I have called school districts in this country. And thank you, that's fine. And the school districts, when I say school districts, I don't mean every district should have a school district. No, it should be called a school district. Now, you could have maybe 10 districts that have similar socio-economic conditions, similar opportunities, and then within that school district, you create a customized curriculum of that very school districts, such that the students there are obsessed with the problems that concern them. Problems, things that can empower them to look at things and know that this, I want to address this problem.
Well, in that case, would you not be restricting the knowledge generated to only that particular area.
No.
We are looking at a situation where we want people are going to be impactful at a national level,
also,
international level.
Okay, but look at what you're busy looking at what is going to happen at an international level. But you're also encouraging a child in Karamoja who is faced with a drought, who is faced with hunger, who is faced with cattle rustling, and maybe have opportunities of gold in their own territory, and you're telling them to pay attention to the slums in Katwe. You're also telling them to pay attention to the floods in Waise, to the traffic jam in Kampala, and you're going to examine them, those things. Now, what kind of citizen are you creating? Now, if you concentrated on a child in Chisoro, whose main activity, like Chisoro, Chigezi area somehow, if their main activity is farming, say Irish potatoes, matoke, but it does not take away the other kind of subjects we know, like biology is always going to be biology, but also taught in a context of a region where this child is. Math, in the region where if you are telling a child to learn how to count, you're going to look at how many cows, 5 cows plus 5 cows, because that's what they're seeing on a daily basis. It becomes easier for them to understand. So that region, you encourage now competitiveness between regions. And when you cumulatively bring all regions together, you have what we call national development. And these people, at the end of the day, we have institutes, we have universities, that these people at some point, they will converge, they will come together, they will form that national unity. And they'll work, the diversity now will have that diversity converging into one place. So, but this business of teaching things that are not relevant to one's community, that do not address the problems of that particular community, that do not encourage people to take risks, to become creative and innovative. So are we really surprised that unemployment is the order of the day? We can't create, we can't innovate, we can't look forward. We are waiting for jobs and no one created them.
Your proposal there is a departure from what I've heard from other very many people. While you're talking about applying education at a regional level, people are saying probably we need to rethink totally the curriculum at a national level and isolate the key issues that we need to focus on as a country, things that can take us forward, as opposed maybe to learning about European history or those kind of things that were that have dominated the syllabus for quite some time. Shouldn't that be the point?
No, Kenneth, here is what we are doing. Any curriculum that is really in the interest of this country should take care of 3 things.
Okay.
Local relevancy, regional relevancy, and international or global relevancy. And that can also be applied within a particular region. And you know why I emphasize a particular region? So when you create and that's what I told the commission, when you create the school district, then you're going to create what we call the district evaluation boards. So now a child can be evaluated by people who understand him or her, using the context they understand. So every school district will do things that they care about, things that help them move forward, and you're going to see strong advocacy for a particular region to make sure that these students succeed and move forward. You realize that members of parliament will start advocating for their school districts, church leaders will start church leaders will start advocating for their own school districts. Everyone who is coming from that particular school district will always, whenever given a chance, advocate for the good of that particular. Right now they don't care because they think everything is centralized. Minister of Education will take care of that, and even a member of parliament, whenever they bring maybe a budget that involves increase of salaries for teachers, no one cares because it is to whom it may concern. So I am advocating for taking back education to the owner, the people.
Has it worked elsewhere?
It is
that kind of model.
It is working elsewhere.
Where?
Let's simply jump into the superpowers of this world, for example. And go to China, go to Singapore, in US, education is provided by states. Okay, and the curriculum of every state has its own what? Curriculum. So has that stopped them? If a state is endowed with oil, trust me, whatever, they will study everything else, but the skills that are supposed to help them extract oil are embedded into the curriculum.
Must be part and parcel of
Thank
that
you very
curriculum.
much. Now we move away from US. We go to Canada. Provinces, there is nothing like a Ministry of Education on a federal level. No. Education is a business of a provincial government. So every province has its own curriculum because it has its own uniqueness, it has its own opportunities, socio-economic needs, so they create a curriculum. But again, when they create those curricula, there is always a convergence. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to stay isolated. Singapore, China, UK, in other words, it's us here in Africa that don't want to be better. We are not wishing ourselves good. So we are trying to nationalize things, to think that, and then we even make it worse. And again, this is something else I submitted to
the commission.
To the commission. We make it worse, and we send our children in boarding schools. Okay? Now just think of a situation where you have taken a child to a boarding school, and everyone else has taken their children to a boarding school. So meaning, for the next 16 to 20 years, you have extracted a child from their community. You only borrow them for 2 months, if even that is 2 months, to come during their holidays, to come back home. And what do they do when they come back home? They are either on video games, those who have them, others are just somewhere for only 2 months a year. The 16 years to 20, they are in what? In a confined place, on a timetable, following rules, the way the person who gave us this wrong education actually envisaged it, that you have to create very obedient servants, very people who listen to what you're telling them, but cannot think out of the box. These people know nothing about the problems of their communities.
So the education we have is by design.
It is designed that way, to make a person who cannot help themselves. So, in other words, they can't be creative. From 5, they are going to prep. From prep, they are going to class. From class, they are going to have lunch. From lunch, they are playing a little bit and shower. They are going back to prep. From there, they go to bed for the next 20 years. So what kind of human being who has been programmed like a robot, you want them to come back and become active in their societies, become problem solvers? Yet you have kept them somewhere as if they are prisoners who don't understand what is happening around them. Isn't that really doing a huge disservice to this country? Where else, other than here in Africa? And in Africa, we are the less developed countries. Where else is it happening? This education system is designed to make us the way we are. Now, you even move it forward and you say, there are some bad habits and behaviors we are trying to get rid of. And you even enact laws, okay, deterring such behaviors. But you are also creating a nursery bed in a boarding school, in a single-sex school, where these things could even grow. And then you're wondering why we are having such things in society. So, someone has designed an education system to kill who we are, and we have openly supported them. I can understand parents are going to say that, but where am I going to leave these children when I'm going to work? But you can look for your opportunity cost. Are you going to get rid of your child for the next 16 to 20 years? And you expect them to come back after anything to take care of you in your old age? No, they don't know you. You single-sourced them. I mean, you kind of like, which word? There's a word they use. You subcontracted them somewhere for 20 years. Why would you want them to take care of you? If you were in countries like those developed countries, you would be, in your old age, you would be taken actually in a senior, if they are so nice, they will take you in a senior's home. To keep you there, like another boarding school of adults. So those are things we took to the commission. And we also asked them, please, if you create the district evaluation boards that understand their regions very well and assess these students, change UNEB into something else. Make a small, slim body that is now going to provide quality assurance and better research to these school districts on how to assess, or promising practices from elsewhere that promote good assessment. So that way, you're going to create an education system that works. But this one, it is not encouraging anyone's child to become creative, to become innovative, to create employment. The only thing we have people who will graduate massively, in masses, from so many universities with one aim, to look for a job. And there is no one who has created that job. And when you do that, that human capital has gone to waste. And that's what the person who engineered and re-engineered, who engineered this education system that we are operating, that's what they want. We had African indigenous education. It did look like something like this. And for them, that's what they have. Okay? They call it another name. Competence-based education, authentic learning, big picture learning, deeper learning. For us, they left with us something they know. They made sure we forget what we had that was valuable. They gave us something that creates a person that is actually not as good as we would want to have our economy. Now look at, we are in a technology era. No one cares about technology today. For them, they are positioning themselves to take off, to continue the supremacy that they have been having for years. Saudi Arabia, the largest producer of oil as we know, it is already re-strategizing itself away from oil because they see oil is not a resource of tomorrow. They are going into AI, into that industry. They want to rival America. They want to rival China. For us, we are not even in no curriculum in this country.
We have not even beaten the computer age.
Thank you.
That is Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a break. When we return, we have dealt so much with the lower levels of education. We'll go to the higher level of education where Dr. Muganga is a leader to understand what exactly we need to do there to have an education system that ticks. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum continues after this break.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. We're also coming to you live via DSTV, audio channel 897. On StarTimes, our audio channel is 97. We are also live on the different radio listening apps, which can be obtained from the Google stores of your smartphone. Download any, look for Radio 1 FM 90. And as long as you have an internet connection, you'll be able to listen to this radio station. My guest this evening, Dr. Lawrence Muganga, the Vice Chancellor at Victoria University, Kampala. We are looking at reforms in the education sector. What should be our priority? In the first half of this discussion, we focused a lot on the lower section of our education system. Now we will need to move a little bit higher and look at issues in the higher level of education. Dr. Muganga, you are in that particular area with Victoria University. What do we need to change as far as the higher education system is concerned?
Again, it comes back to the foundation you built to even come to higher education. I was telling you, if you look at any curriculum in primary or lower secondary, or even higher education that is not IT, even IT now, there's nowhere you're going to find that they are giving an opportunity to students to study artificial intelligence. But we know it is going to wipe out everyone's strength, whatever they knew and everything. So you can now understand the kind of education we're doing, emphasizing. So, but switching gears, coming to higher education, Ken and listeners, I want to draw your attention to a situation that you have witnessed. You join a university or some institute or college anywhere, and this university sits you in a classroom for 5 days, in a classroom 5 days a week. And then they do the same for the next 3 years. So you have spent 3 years or even 4, but seated in the classroom. So in other words, you are a professional student. You have done your job diligently. Now, you dare graduate and get out to go to the labor market. The labor market is telling you that thank you so much for acquiring your degree. You've gotten a very good first class or a second class upper or anything you have gotten, but we need 2 years, 3 years of experience. Now, is it news? Is it a surprise that this was never known when a student was starting their year 1, that they will be asked to produce 2 years of work experience? So why is it that higher education does not factor experience into education delivery? So those are the things, again, we told the Education Policy Review Commission, that while it is important to learn as much theory as possible, it is also that theory can be obtained. In this day and age that we live in, everyone who has a phone can access, and internet on that phone can access that theory. So time is now when we have to also take care of experience. And how do we get that experience? We have to make different entrepreneurs, companies, that ecosystem, become co-educators with higher education institutions. Because at the end of the day, these people come to these institutions, and these institutions demand particular attributes, experiences, and competencies. So these people cannot just come with them if they didn't open their doors to make sure that a student, much as they sit in a classroom there, their other outside classroom is a company where they're doing real work. It may not be paid. But also these companies need labor. But also government has to give them some kind of subsidy to be able to host these students. This business of granting a student who is pursuing a bachelor's degree, 2 months, whatever, internship, and then you go, the people who have hosted you as an intern, the way they deploy you is to make for them coffee, photocopy some files, their papers, and then they write for your report. You passed your internship, you go back to school, and you graduate. No, these people should be actually placed in these workplaces. Why the same thing we are trying to do at Victoria University. You sit in our classroom 15 hours a week. The rest of the hours, find somewhere to work. If you don't get that place, we will get somewhere to place you. So, and then we get to supervise you while you are at that particular place. So by the time you graduate, at least if you're looking for a job, you know how to network, you know how to work as a team, you know how to really contribute something that is tangible. You have gained experience. You have 3 years or 2 years of experience, not 0 years of experience, the way it is today. So that is one important thing for us to think about.
Okay.
The other thing that, again, we have to think about, and that's why I advocate for really removal of this vice called exams from the lower kind of education levels. Now, think about this, the listeners and Ken here. When someone is given an exam in front of their table, they are told to come in with either a calculator, if it is a mathematical kind of exam, or a pen, and the answer sheet, you're going to find it there. Then you are told to not look at your neighbor's what? Work. If you look at that, that's a malpractice. That's the end of you. You are baptized with the letter F. You failed. Now, you practice that. That's the practice of non-consultation, zero feedback, zero teamwork for the next 23 years. You're doing it in primary, secondary, and university. And then when you graduate, the employer is telling you, thank you very much. Everything you do, please work as a team. Consult. When you write something, give it for other people to give you some feedback. Correct it. Okay? Everything you studied as a skill ended at the time you graduated. When you entered the real world, you have different skills that are required, and you don't have them, and you don't get a job. So, and that's what those people who gave us this education wanted. For them, from the day you entered school, you are doing a project, and you have a portfolio of if you went in countries like Sweden, Finland, Australia, Canada, US, Singapore, a child has a portfolio of things they have done as a team, as an individual, as a community, with parents, and these activities have left them with skills. They have consulted, they have built consensus, so they understand how society moves. They know how to deal with their age mates, they know how to deal with people who are older than them, they know how to deal with those who are younger than them. That is the diversity we live in. And for us, the situation is very different. And then we want a person who is going to make miracles for us in this country. It doesn't work like that. You have to invest in any outcome you're looking for. As long as we continue to do things like this, we are going to get very bad products on the market, on the labor market. We will continue to get products that cannot help themselves, can't help their families or a community or their own country. A very vivid example I'm going to show you, or to really tell you. From the day, this is how painful this education system is. And the obvious things. So from the day a child enters primary school, they are taught how to handwrite. Okay? And they are even beaten or punished for having a bad handwriting. And if you are unlucky, like myself growing up, I was converted from being a left-handed person to the right-handed person because it was wrong to write with your left hand. So along the way, but anyway, they helped me. Now I can write with both hands. Yes, but it was not necessary. So they are teaching you a skill to handwrite, go to university, they are dictating notes, handwrite, exams, handwrite. Now you come to the real moment when you have graduated, and you need a CV. These students can't even type their own CVs. They don't know how to use computers. They can't write their own application. They are at NASA, they are at Wandegea, wherever there's a cafe, to type for them a CV, to make for them an application. And when they go into this particular job, an employer wants a typed report, not a handwritten report. And these people can't even type their name in a minute. So you see how people fail to get now. Where are you going to take this kind of human resource beyond Uganda? Who needs this kind of resource that cannot even help themselves? So yet, if we invested in producing people with the right skills needed in the real economy, not the presumed economy that doesn't exist. Now, the skill of a handwriting is dead. When you're filing a story somewhere, I don't think you file a story that is handwritten. You're going to type it. So, are you surprised that you get interns coming here, and when they start typing on their computer, you may think maybe a chicken is walking on the keyboard? So that's the education system that we are in.
All right, Dr. Muganga, we have feedback coming in from the listeners, and we have one comment here. One agrees with you on the boarding schools. He says, on boarding schools, he's so right. Kids learn from home too. He seems to suggest that the home is also a learning environment. David in Kisasi, when he talks about learners being creative, does Dr. Muganga buy manufactured toys for his children? If so, why? Is he aware that children who study and grow up in rural areas and from poor backgrounds are better appliers of knowledge they get in school than the elite children of the likes of Dr. Muganga? For example, the NRA bushmen managed to survive in the bush because they grew up in rural areas grazing animals, but got quality primary, secondary, and university education, which is not provided today.
What's his name?
He's called David.
David.
That is his comment there.
Yeah,
David.
But David is right. He's actually supporting what I told you. Kids should remain in their communities and do things, understand their problems, solve problems in their communities. I think he's actually amplifying the message there.
All right. We have another comment. Good evening, Kenneth. Thank you for hosting the guest in studio. Understanding our region makes us have specialized personnel than following the old mass of education. We have always hired specialists in IT, in agriculture, in engineering, which is costly. We need to shift learning and localize the content. If I asked you how many soil types are in Uganda, would you give me an answer? Say The answer will be universal, yet we have variation in quality and quantity of food produced. We need reforms in the education sector, and he says his name is George and he's listening in from Mulago. Fred writes in.
Thank you, George.
Fred writes in and says, with due respect, problem-based learning is knowledge-intensive. The learners and teachers must be broader, reading and researching about aspects beyond the boundaries of the curriculum. Moreover, the quality of life of an individual is related to the quality of the brain someone houses in their brain. Mm-hmm. How then can someone assess the quality of the brain of someone if we espouse a curriculum in a narrow sense, as suggested by the doctor in studio? That's a comment by Fred there. Would you want to respond?
Yes,
to him?
Actually, I think he misunderstood what I was saying. We are not saying that narrow down the curriculum. And actually, we are saying the moment you localize the curriculum and you give it an opportunity to be also regional sensitive, and then you take it to the global sensitivity, when you allow a child to apply themselves in their local setting, these people are going to do amazing things beyond the normal curriculum we know. They will start using, if you told them, if they learned by problem-based kind of learning, they are going to look at a problem in a community.
Learn by doing.
They start learning by doing. And they're going to put together different resources and different experts to help them solve that problem. So all that is not embedded. When you're on that project, you learn so many skills like teamwork, collaboration, planning, managing things, everything that a curriculum will never give you. So it is, right now the curriculum that we have is very narrow. It's about remembering and presenting what you still remember.
All right. Henry Ryson said the doctor is spot on. How do we deal with universal courses like medicine, engineering at a federal-like education system? PLOE is set to progress to senior one. That's a comment there by Henry. Then we have another comment from Adit Moses, listening in from Kampala. Says, good evening, Spectrum. I love doctor's analysis. I wish him the best. What he's talking about is very true. We have another comment. For our own information, there is nothing as practical as enough theory about a problem. Do we know that the developed countries are able to, for example, exploit the electromagnetic spectrum or the light produced by the sun to solve challenges of life by reading deeper and selling the state-of-the-art innovations like microwave X-rays, Google Maps to us who read less on what the sun emits? A curriculum that cannot support learners to read beyond the boundaries of the curriculum, as suggested by Dr. In Studio, will only keep us servants of the Western world who intensively read more theory to support the state-of-the-art innovations. Can we benchmark what goes on at Harvard?
Exactly. Now, again, some kind of misunderstanding there. He's actually supporting what I'm trying to tell them. It's okay to have theory. It's great. And everything that we see great, it began with a particular theory. But ours begins and ends with the theory, the curriculum that we have.
You've given the example of people cannot use the computer.
Exactly, and the assessment methods we have. So if we change the kind of assessment methods that we are having today, or the assessment model, that it really encourages us to cram, memorize, and then start recalling. If we go away from that, then we can think. Design thinking is talking about like Harvard, MIT, where people look at particular problems. And then those problems are in society. And then they bring the society together, still using the curriculum they have. But they draw from the strength of everyone to solve that particular problem, leading to ownership. And the students acquire different skills that are real life. Not those skills just in a classroom. That's what I'm saying. So when you look at the education approach I'm advocating for, it is one that is not constrained by simply a curriculum. You can use this curriculum, but the methods of delivery can take you places, learn different things, get exposure from different places, and then create that expertise that the world needs. So that's what these developed countries have done. So if you look at, and where they are beating us, is as simple as look at countries like Canada, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Denmark, US. No one has a national exam. Nothing. They are allowing kids and students to interact with their curriculum and content and then move beyond the curriculum to interface with the real world and then create different projects, then have a portfolio. At the end of the day, they are assessed on the competencies, the skills, and the mastery they have acquired, and that's what society needs, and that's what the economy needs. But today you learn and you have zero competencies of technology. And yet we know we can't survive without it, we can't walk it back, but only to be left behind.
All right, we have another comment here from Evans who says, Dr. Muganga is talking sense, but how did he reach that level? Don't you think he went through the same education system which is on currently?
I would like,
if you are able to think the way you're thinking.
I would like to give the person who has commented some insights, and thank you for your comment. I definitely went, like the first person who talked about kids going through the villages and started from there. I was one of those kids, and then went as far as coming to Makerere, but I've since gone to Canada, I've gone University of Alberta, gone to Harvard, and researched and worked with different education models in 51 countries. So that's where I gather the exposure, the experience that can come back here with all the competencies and confidence to say that we can do better in this country. We can actually change what we have that is not working for us and try to also rival those people and show them that we Ugandans, if we do the right things, we can actually be better than them. They don't monopolize being better. A Ugandan, if exposed to right information and how to do things better, they can actually surprise everyone in the world.
All right.
They are talented, they are smart, so it's only a better education that can extract that human being in everyone that was created to be. But the education we have leaves that person that God created in you to remain in you, and will never see that person.
All right. Two other key issues, Dr. Muganga, I would like to hear your views on it. One of those issues you commented on it in the course of this discussion is the issue of school fees.
Yes.
It's a major issue now, and we know this week Parliament will be tasking the Minister of Education and Sports to address it. You people are in the education sector. How do you look at this issue of the hiking school fees?
Now, we just need to be honest, Ken, and the listeners. When you look at Uganda, Uganda has one of the highest population growth rates, about 3.2 annually. And we have a young population that is almost 78%. And if you look at 0 to 18 years, they are about 70 or maybe 65%. So by default, there is a huge demand for education service. Okay? And then government comes in to solve this problem. We remember, education is supposed to be a public good, and a public good must be provided by the state. So now, Ministry of Education, like government comes, the state comes in and provides UPE and provides USE. That means at least they're trying to provide access to so many people to join school. But these schools, UPE and USE, and thanks to government, much as we talk about quality and everything, but at least people are going to school. But they are full. So when they get full, there is always a huge gap that now government needs help. And when they need help, they need the private sector to come in to help them fill that gap. And when the private sector joins any business, they come in as businessmen and women. So whenever you invest your money, you expect profit. And so whatever they are doing is legal, only that they are exploiting a situation where there is a willing buyer right now. Even if government came up with the capping kind of strategy and a regulation, some people will say for us, there are people who are willing to do what?
To pay.
There is a simple solution. A simple solution. I told them today's parent buys grades. Okay? That's a mindset that has gone into people's minds, that a grade is very important, will make my child successful. Then do like other developed countries, what they have done. Go to continuous assessment, do away with the grades. Once you do away with the grades, regionalize education, the students will stay within their boundaries. Now, it's going to be that competition. The moment you remove grades, there's no more competition. Right now, people say, okay, for me, I can manufacture first grades. I'll give you first grades if you just bring your kids. And then I am charging this. And indeed, parents, for them, they have been told that for their child to be successful, they have to have a first grade. They'll pay that money. So the following year, because they have performed even better, they'll charge more. So there is always going to be a willing buyer because the population favors them. There is always demand. So therefore, we have to swallow a bitter pill as government and appreciate that education is a public good. And now we take education closer to people, remove national exams such that competition is broken. Slowly. Slowly, once, now parents will start thinking, you know what, now that there is no this competition, my child can go to my neighboring what? School. So, and there's no now appetite for these people to charge more money. So the danger there is that the private people, since they can't now charge more money, they'll start exiting the system, leaving it for government, which is now what is supposed to be. But as of now, if we don't do something like this, prices are not going to stop. You can cap it. But some schools will close their gates and say, you know what, we invest a lot of money into this. The cost of delivering the education you want is too high. So if you can't afford it, go look for those ones you can afford. In the courts of law, they're okay. This is a free market economy. So it's government that has to do something long term to solve this problem. And it's only going to be a policy shift in the way we assess, in the way we take education closer to people. And maybe, again, you can, in the short term, you can have this capping and everything, but regulating that will be very tough.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawrence Muganga, for sparing time to come and share with Ugandans your views about the education sector. And indeed, as you've heard from the feedback we've received, people have appreciated your input. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for sharing with us. Your views helped us to shape the discussion here in studio. Well, I've been your host, Kenneth Lukwago Anderson. Up next, we're going to have the news in English with Ms. Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, we'll have the Soul Train with BB Jr.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
The views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of this radio station or its management.